All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We're happy to have you and glad that you're here. This is an Alteryx webinar. We'll talk about the topic and the presenter here in a minute. But first, let me just say thank you to Technion Data Solutions for hosting these webinars. Both Deanna and I work for Technion as consultants, so we love the opportunity to serve our clients, helping them with data problems and issues, finding solutions. We love that chance, and so we'd love to work with any of you, and each and every single one of you, if it was possible, it would be great. But we love working for Technion. Technion is a partner of lots of different various platforms and solutions that you can see here. But bringing them together because they are the best in class for what they do. So Resave for data warehousing, Tableau for visual analytics, Alteryx for data blending and analysis and analytics, Data Robot for predictive analytics, and Snowflake as one of the best in class data warehouses in the cloud. So excited with all of these partnerships and being able to bring these solutions together. It makes it even more powerful and more fun for us as well. So we are excited to have you for the webinar today. First, a little bit of housekeeping. We will have Q&A. You should have a Q&A panel to type in questions. Feel free to enter those as we go along so that you don't forget. We'll probably hold off to the end on answering them, but feel free to type them out anytime that you think of something. Also, the question that often comes up is, will there be a recording? And the answer is yes. I just double checked. We are recording, and so there will be. You should receive a video or an email when the video is uploaded and ready for you to view. But if you just can't wait, or you want to see previous videos, there is a link there that has previous recordings along with various other videos that we've started to put together, and that could be anything from Alteryx to Tableau to Resave, but this webinar will definitely be included. All right, so I am just about to hand this off to Deanna. She has been just recently announced as an Alteryx ACE. And most of you are probably familiar with that, but for those who aren't, an Alteryx ACE is the highest designation that Alteryx bestows upon people in the community who are out there helping others with Alteryx and spreading the word about Alteryx and generating excitement. So Deanna has been doing that through these webinars, through the Alteryx user group, and through Alteryx for Good. She has been doing a lot of that. There are only around 40 Alteryx ACEs in the world, so out of hundreds of thousands of users, it's incredible the honor that Alteryx bestowed upon Deanna. And so I'm excited to turn this over to her. She is going to be sharing some Alteryx tips and tricks. So Deanna, I'm going to make you the presenter, and I'm excited to see what you have to share.
Excellent, and thank you, Joshua, for that great introduction. I appreciate it very much, and as usual, it's always great to do these webinars with Joshua. He mentioned that I'm an Alteryx ACE, and it is a true honor and a privilege to receive this recognition for all the work that I've done with Alteryx and continue to do, and definitely will plan to do for many, many years to come. But I also wanted to mention that Joshua has the equivalent of that for Tableau. So Joshua is a Zen master in Tableau, which is a wonderful designation as well. So I just wanted to mention that also, that if you ever have questions about Tableau, Joshua is certainly someone to talk with. He's certainly quite the expert in it as well, and very creative in his visualizations also. So thank you for that introduction, and I'm very happy today to talk with everyone and to show you a recap of the recent Alteryx Inspire conference. This was back in early June, and I was very privileged to attend that as well. So I'll give you a recap, and it is going to be kind of fun to show all the neat things that happened at the conference. And really, this is just a tip of the iceberg. So I can't really show you all that happened because it would take much more than an hour. But it was a great conference, one of the best out there. I highly recommend it if you can go to Alteryx Inspire in 2019. Please do, because there's so much to learn and see and do, and the networking opportunities are incredible. And you have opportunity not only to take courses and learn as you go, but also to sit in on amazing presentations and talk with others and learn how they're using Alteryx and come home with tons of ideas of how you can implement Alteryx and utilize it right away. So I definitely want to show you that. And then after the recap, I'll be showing a little bit of what's new in version 2018.2, which I'll also be using today in Alteryx. And then I'll show you tips and tricks in Alteryx. This is the tips and tricks session that was shown at the Inspire conference this year. So it's very up to date, 2018 tips and tricks. This session was so popular. It sold out at the conference, and they actually had to do it the next day in an ad hoc manner because so many people wanted to see these tips and tricks. So I'm very happy to bring those tips and tricks to you all today as well. A little bit of background on me. I've been using Alteryx since 2005, so actually a little over 12 years. And my degree is in geography and GIS, or Geographical Information Systems. So I specialize in spatial and demographic analyses in Alteryx. So with that, having all the experience in Alteryx with that, I definitely want to show you these tips and tricks that I actually use, and they really make your life so much easier. So I'm very excited to show you that today. So first we'll start with the recap. So as mentioned, I was designated as an Alteryx ACE this year, and again, very happy to receive that and to use it to do even more with Alteryx, more with the user groups in the Dallas-Fort Worth areas, more with Alteryx for Good, and even with the new DFW Women of Analytics group that was recently founded. So I'll give you more information on that at the end of the presentation as well. So, Alteryx Inspire 2018. There is so much to see and do in just a few days. It's really only 3 days long, and they do pack a lot into this conference. So as mentioned, there's ideas and collaboration and networking, and definitely a lot of fun. You'll see some great photos here. There are full training sessions on Monday, so the conference really kicks off with keynotes and sessions and presentations and luncheons on Tuesday and continues through Wednesday. But if you arrive early, you can go to these full training sessions on Monday. And I've been through many of them, and they are exceptional. They even have an 8-hour session on macros. So you can actually spend all day on Monday learning macros and coming back to your work later that week and start to implement what you've learned. So I highly recommend these training sessions. And then you go into the keynotes and so on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'll show some photos from those. There's also the Solution Center, User Group Lounge, Alteryx for Good area, and the UX Lab, or User Experience Lab. All of these are phenomenal. The Solutions Center is open to where you can bring your questions, your laptop, and so on, and actually have them solve some of your Alteryx issues and problems and help you get over some of those humps that you might be experiencing. And they do it right there on the fly at the Solutions Center. And these are Alteryx experts that are doing this. So highly recommend bringing your ideas and your issues to the conference. Take your laptop to the Solutions Center, and they can help you with many of those issues and problems. And you come home with literally a solution. There's the User Group Lounge. You can hang out with user group leaders like me and many other leaders from not only around the country, but around the world. And you can get to know each of them and talk about starting your own user group, or how to make things more efficient with your user group, or even just gain ideas for cool and new presentations for your user group. There's the Alteryx for Good area, and I highly recommend this. I did, and was privileged to receive the Alteryx for Good Award in 2017. And you can actually talk with me there as well, and along with the Alteryx for Good staff from Alteryx, and learn about how you can start doing Alteryx for Good with your area nonprofits and universities. There's so much that can be done with these free licenses that are being given to nonprofits and universities and so on. And you can stop by and learn more about that. The UX Lab allows you to test, basically beta test, the new things that are coming up after 2018.2, and I'll be showing a little bit about that. So the UX Lab is a lot of fun. You really get to experience and provide feedback of what you think will work and what isn't working for these new products coming out. There's also the expo with the partner booths and vendors. Technion had a booth there as well, and it was really exceptional. It was always full, which was nice to see. And if you did attend the conference, you will notice that our Technion staff are in very bright orange shirts, so you can't miss us. And especially when the lights are dimmed and you're in the keynote presentations and so on, the orange shirts kind of glow in the dark. So it's really neat. You really can't miss this. You can always find one of us if needed. So if you get to go in 2019, please stop by our booth and talk with us. There are parties on Monday and Tuesday. Show a few little pictures of that. And then, all in all, it was California, 70 degrees, Disneyland. Enough said. It was an awesome experience. This year, Inspire 2018 was in Anaheim, California, and literally right next to Disneyland. So you saw the Disneyland fireworks every night. So again, it was a fantastic conference. So as mentioned, Monday starts with the full training sessions, and here's a list of just some of what you can get in these training sessions. There's core concepts, macros, fuzzy matching, and even predictive and prescriptive analytics. And there are much more, so I'm going to actually click on this. This is training for Inspire, and you can see it was sold out, so it is important to register early. So you can actually see the courses here and the training offerings. And then, if you can, go through this list. Again, this is recorded, so I'll show you that link again for Inspire 2018, Inspire-2018-training. You can really get a feel for what's being offered, including even crew macros. So Chaos Reigns Within is actually a company that provides macros, additional macros for Alteryx. They are not a part of Alteryx, but Adam Riley, who creates the crew macros, is truly a genius, and he does make macros that are essential and in addition to Alteryx, and they work really well with Alteryx. So there's even a session on that. So if you're trying to justify going to the conference, you can actually show your supervisor this list and say, look at all we could learn just in the first day before the keynotes even start by going to this list here of all of the courses that are offered just in that first day of training. And then on Tuesday, the keynote speech launches everything. This is the keynote speech for our CEO, Dean Stoker of Alteryx. And the really cool thing is, I've got this great photo here. There is basically a ticket stub admission for the keynote speech for Tuesday. And on the ticket stub, it said, the doors open at 7:30 a.m. So basically, we all looked at it and said, oh, that's cool, it's a ticket stub. We're going to get there at 7:30. Little did we know, there's a cover band of the Doors actually playing at 7:30 a.m., which was amazing. As you can see from the photo, they were pretty true to the look of the Doors. The lead singer really did look like Jim Morrison. And what was really neat is this was held at the Anaheim Convention Center. So this was actually where 50 years earlier, the Doors with Jim Morrison actually performed. So it was a really nice tribute. To have this band open and launch the keynote, and really it set the tone for the rest of the conference. It was just electrifying and fun, and it got everyone excited, and it really carried through the rest of the conference through Thursday. So what was really neat was this lead singer had stopped for a moment right around 8 o'clock when Dean was supposed to start talking. He'd stepped down, and then he stepped back on stage again. And he launched the next song, which was really cool. And then he ran to the middle of the stage. And you can see him running here to the middle of the stage. And then all of a sudden, it's Dean Stoker. So the CEO of Alteryx actually traded places with the lead singer of the band. Looked exactly like Jim Morrison in many ways. You can see my photo here is blurry because he was running so fast. I was trying to get a picture of him. And then you can see him over here in this other photo transforming and becoming Dean Stoker. And it was an awesome way to launch the conference. It was outstanding. Dean always does an amazing job. He's a true showman for Alteryx and really did set the tone for the rest of the day. It was outstanding. So starting off after that keynote, you have your Tuesday and Wednesday sessions. You've got lots of presentations, lots of opportunity to experience and learn Alteryx going into these sessions. In fact, I always say the one challenge of Inspire 2018 is that there's so many sessions, you have to actually choose one out of many to go to. And so you're choosing one, you're missing three others. So that's really the main challenge of the Inspire conference. There's so much to do and so much to learn there. So you can see there's an ACE track where you can learn from the Alteryx ACEs, community and data analyst tracks. There's even tracks for IT and business leaders. And there's a tech track for the truly technical of us to go and learn from. So if I click here, we can go to the agenda and you can see the different tracks here. You can see what you can learn from and see what the agendas are. I'm going to click on Tuesday here after the keynote where it starts. You can see these breakout sessions. So there's so much to see. And as mentioned, you have to choose one during this time frame. So you can see there's IT and business, a tech track. So you can learn reporting 1, 2, 3. You can learn predictive, even decision trees with Alteryx developer tools, and so on. So there's a wealth of knowledge to be gained from this amazing conference. And again, I recommend that you just click on this link here. I'll show it again in the PowerPoint. And this way, since this is being recorded, you can just pause right here and get that link. And take a look at what the agenda looks like. And it's bigger every year. So 2019 promises to be even more substantial than this year. So just for example, the ACE track on Tuesday, here's just a list of all that was shown that day. So you can do advanced cartographic methods, you can do HTML SDKs, developer kits with APIs. Wednesday, there's batch macros. There's even the ACE fireside chat. And again, that's just the ACE track. There's so many other tracks, as mentioned, the tech track and the IT track, that you can go into and actually learn from. So if you want to view the presentations from Inspire, you can actually click on this link here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. I'll show this link again so you can actually look at it during the recording. But if you click on this link, all of the presentations are listed that were in this list earlier, showing the breakout sessions. So just go to this link, and again, I'll show it to you. But there's 317 presentations. So you can really pick and choose what you want to start looking at and learning. And it's really incredible, the amount of information that's here. And this is just the presentations. So again, I'll show that link for you and talk a little bit so that you have time to use this when the recording is given to you. And just go to slideshare.net/Alteryx-presentations, or / there we go. And you can actually get to the presentations here. So there's also a partner summit. So for those of you who are listening in and are partners of Alteryx, there is a summit where you can learn about the newest features of Alteryx. They also present awards to the top companies. Technion was privileged to receive the Alteryx North American Partner of the Year Award in 2017. So I'm very proud to be a part of Technion with that. And then there's Downtown Alteryx, or what this year was called the Alter Nation. So this is where you have your partners and your vendors, such as Technion is a partner here, User Group Lounge, Alteryx for Good, and the Amazing Solutions Center. So there's a whole area just for this. We can go and explore and experience. There's also the Grand Prix. So if you don't know about the Grand Prix, it's where the top 3 Alteryx competitors in the world compete against each other and the clock. So they actually have to build workflows on the fly. They get 3 to 4 different issues they have to solve, and they solve them on the screen. So you're actually seeing their work behind them on this 150-foot wide screen. So you can see their processes and their thoughts and how they get to these answers. This gentleman here in the middle, participating in the Grand Prix, is our very own Matthew Agee. Matthew is a 3-time Grand Prix competitor, and he is really one of the only people I know who's done it 3 times, because these are the top 3 competitors in the world. So this year was his 3rd time to participate in the Grand Prix. He did come in second, but he only came in, and I must say, by only seconds. It was such a close tie with the #1 person that he actually came in only seconds behind. So to Matthew, kudos to you for being a 3-time Grand Prix racer. And also kudos, in my opinion, for being the best in Texas. So thank you to Matthew for being a part of that. Then, as mentioned, there are parties. And so Tuesday night, there is the Coachella Fest, play on words on the Coachella parties that happen in California. And since this was in California, it was pretty appropriate to be the Coachella Fest. Lots of music, refreshments, and tons of food trucks. So there's, a great way to relax and enjoy the conference each day after going through sessions and training in the Solution Center and so on. You can also see there's a top community contributors and user group leaders party. So you can see, yes, there is a lot of fun going on here at the conference. And these are many of our user group leaders from around the world. And then there's Wednesday keynotes, and these are really awesome. So Wednesday starts with keynote speeches by Chief Strategy Officer Langley Ide and Scott Jones, Chief Revenue Officer. And they talked on the universe of AI, ML, or machine learning, and data aha moments. And this was really cool. They showed the new features of 2018.2 and a glimpse of future enhancements. And yes, there were quite a few moments of spontaneous applause. And yes, I was one of those, breaking into applause for all of the, not only new features of 2018.2, which I'll show you in a moment, but also what's coming up after 2018.2. There's also a Women of Analytics Luncheon, and this is moderated by Libby Duane Adams. She's the Chief Customer Officer and also co-founder of Alteryx, and it was a sold-out luncheon. Had a panel of 5 guests. As you can see here, Maury Oren from Rogers Communications, Tim Chandler from Marketo. He talked about his daughter's experiences going into the analytics realm in New York City. Nicole Johnson with T-Mobile, she also won the Grand Prix this year. Katie Harrelson, she's Senior Product Manager at Alteryx. And then Ariana Fuller, VP at Goldman Sachs. Again, it was a sold-out luncheon, really well attended, and the panel was outstanding. A lot of great topics and great answers being given there. So for these Wednesday keynotes, Wednesday afternoon, Libby Duane Adams, as mentioned, the Chief Customer Officer and co-founder, starts her keynote in the afternoon, and she actually arrives on a Harley Davidson. So you can see her here riding in on the Harley. It was a really cool way of coming in. Before she arrived on the Harley, there were actually videos with her talking as a voiceover, and you show her on the back of the Harley, getting on the Harley, riding through Anaheim, riding up to the convention center, and then all of a sudden, as the video is showing her coming up to the convention center, she comes in on a Harley. There's smoke, there's fumes, there's noise. It's wonderful, and what an outstanding way to make an entrance. So kudos to Libby for this. It was a great way to kick off the keynote. During that keynote speech, she talked about not only all the great things that were happening with customer service and the Excellence Awards, she did announce the Alteryx ACEs. And again, it was a privilege to be announced and be a part of this amazing group, along with these 4 other outstanding Alteryx experts from around the world. And you'll be able to see that on the Alteryx website as well. And then for the final keynote speech, which was really long awaited, as is shown here, she's the creator of Super Better. She's a world-renowned game designer and author, best-selling author there, Jane McGonigal. She gave a great speech and discussion about how gaming improves your life. So she talks about how video games, such as Super Better that she created, can actually be very positive. They can actually help people with depression, help people improve their lives, help people achieve goals. And she even went deep into the neuroscience of how that happens and how it works with gaming. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the keynotes, I'll show you a link in a moment where you can. But also, I highly recommend researching Jane McGonigal. She's an amazing person. She actually has some very cool TED Talks. She's ranked in the top 10 of all-time TED Talks. And if you have time, look at the one that talks about how to add 10 years to your life. It's very cool. So if you want to see the keynotes, go to this Inspire, let's see, let me show that again, Inspire-2018-recap, and you can see the keynotes there. So you can see the Welcome to Our Altered State, parts 1 and 2, the data aha moments that talk about version 2018.2 and then the new things that are coming out, Grand Prix, and then Born to Inspire. So yes, please go to this link here, and then you can actually see the keynotes as well. And then Alteryx Inspire 2019, that'll be next year, coming up in just 11 months. It'll be June 11th through the 14th at Nashville, Tennessee. It's going to be at the Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center. So just to give you a little view here of what that looks like. So it is going to be outstanding. Highly recommend being able to go. It'll be fantastic to be in this music city of Nashville and to go visit the Grand Ole Opry as well. So I wanted to show you that also. So next, I'm going to talk about what's new in Alteryx 2018.2. For that, we have Alteryx Connect, Alteryx Server, Alteryx Designer, and Alteryx Promote. So there's 4 aspects of Alteryx. If you go to the Alteryx community, which is community.alteryx.com, you can see these 4 aspects of Alteryx and see a wealth of information people have posted with solutions and ideas and answers. So feel free to go to that and actually see what these 4 aspects are of Alteryx. Most people use Alteryx Designer, and then some of you have Alteryx Server. But Alteryx Connect actually allows you to go into the cataloging side of Alteryx and actually look at your data catalogs and how they connect with each other, who your main users are, and what data is certified and ready for everyone to use in an enterprise environment. Alteryx Promote actually takes your predictive models and it pushes them out through an enterprise framework. So if you're interested in either one of those, please let us know. We actually, again, are an Alteryx partner and technically can help you with each of these aspects. So for Alteryx Connect in 2018.2, it's extending its capabilities. It's got new metadata loaders for Snowflake, MySQL, Azure, ClickSense, and ClickView, which is really great. And then it also will feature a REST API for data consumption, which is outstanding. I think I burst into applause for this one. And then you've got a load from the Alteryx gallery for metadata. And then this one I almost stood up and applauded. I'm so excited about Saml, which is Security Assertion Markup Language. There's an enhanced authorization interface for Alteryx Connect. So now you've got Saml with this. Saml allows you to group user permissions and apply user permissions across the board. So again, this is with Alteryx Connect, but this also is available in Alteryx Server Gallery. So again, so excited to see Saml for the gallery. And this is with a single sign-on authority support. So this is great. If you're just starting out with the gallery, ask us about Saml. We'd be very glad to help you. And again, you can group your user permissions and authorizations and spread those across the board to your users. For Alteryx Designer, there's new changes, such as new connectors, ADLS, Dynamic CRM, OneDrive, Google BigQuery, and even Spark for Databricks, which is AWS. There's also enhancements to existing connectors, such as Snowflake. There is a generic ODBC for in-database, which is awesome. There's existing connectors now, enhancements for Tableau Spatial. And now there's a gzip read. So I know some of you are really looking for that, being able to read your gzipped files. And now we have that for those existing connectors. Another addition, and again, more applause for this, a new Python SDK developer kit. So now you can have third-party Python packages for machine learning, text analysis, and so on. So this is very exciting. And this is already available in 2018.2, ready to download. So again, as mentioned, with Alteryx Promote, it deploys your predictive models into production. Now it has integration with community. So you can do searches on the Alteryx community and it integrates. And it has improvements to R deployment and metadata. So it's very exciting for 2018.2. This one really got huge amounts of applause, both of these. Really, these future enhancements, which you can go and test. Sign up for beta testing and go and test these. There's a new Visualytics. So Visualytics is really cool. It's going to provide interactive charting capabilities within Alteryx. So as with other visualization tools, you can now create these charts and other formats where you can hover over points, see pop-ups, get information, change and drill down into the charts and see other things change along with it. It's very exciting. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in seeing what the capabilities are of this, is to go into the beta testing. And I'll show you the link to that in just a moment. There's also tool caching. Very excited about this. You can actually cache specific tools. So instead of caching your whole workflow, now you can just simply swipe and highlight only the tools you want to cache, and then click, and then you've cached those tools. It really will speed up your workflow development immensely. It was great to watch it on the fly during the keynote. And again, you can get to those keynotes from the link that I provided earlier, and you can watch information about Visualytics and tool caching. There's also another one I didn't list here. You know how you get results in your results window, and you can see things in a table format? You can now, in the future enhancements, right-click and then sort in the results window. So you can actually sort your results and not have to add a sort tool and sort specific areas, but you can actually sort in your results tool. So that's a future enhancement as well. So again, if you're interested in trying out these new features, sign up for beta testing. It's at beta.alteryx.com, and it's very exciting, especially to play with the new Visualytics, there we go, I have to learn how to say that, and the new caching tools as well. So again, beta.alteryx.com, sign up and start viewing that user experience. So now we're going to go over to tips and tricks 2018. These techniques do make your life easier. Some of them are really small, really tiny little things that you can right-click on, but some of them are things you may not know about. And again, as I have found, once you learn them, you implement them all the time. They really do make your life easier. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this and then go down to Alteryx. So I'm going to show you these great tips and tricks. And again, this is with 2018.2, and it is available for download at the Alteryx download website. But with this, I'm going to open 4 workflows. I'm going to show you why I'm opening 4 workflows. I'm just going to show you something about when you have multiple workflows open. So let's see, going to open these, and then we'll do, I think, connecting. And then I'll do this one, view possible connections. So you can see here I've got 4 workflows open. And sometimes you may be working with a bunch of workflows and they're all kind of interrelated. You may be doing something in one and then on success it goes to the next one and so on. And you just want to really have these 4 open. What you can do is actually create a workflow group. So now you can just click on File, Create Workflow Group. And this is going to group these workflows together. And what's neat is you can close them, and then you can open them all at one time. So you can see I already made this group here, testing it out. So I've got Workflow Group 1. It's got a YXWG. This extension stands for Alteryx Workflow Group. And again, it's YXWG. So I'm just going to save that. And so now it's just a workflow group. So you can actually right-click on any workflow name now, and you can say Close All. So I'm just going to right-click, close all of them at once. That's really nice and helpful. Sometimes I have a whole lot of workflows open, and I'm in a hurry, and I need to close all of them, so that's very useful. So now if I just want to open that workflow group, I can go to File, Open Workflow Group, and then there's my workflow group. And I'm just going to open it. So it's going to take a moment while it loads each of these. And now there's my 4 workflows, and they're all in a group. So this is really helpful. And again, this is part of 2018.2. Really very useful. So now I'm going to show you this Mad About Organization workflow. Some of you, including me, like to have your icons lined up. They like to have a very, straight workflow. Everything's lined up perfectly and in order. And yes, that's very helpful. I will confess, when I first make a workflow, it is a mess. I just kind of put my tools everywhere as my mind is flowing. Then later I come and clean it. So this is something you can do that actually cleans up your workflow for you. You can actually now swipe over just the tools you want to align. So you can see I've swiped and highlighted these. Right click, and then I'm going to align horizontally. And now they're lined up. Very cool. So I actually want to do this for, say, maybe these 3 tools here. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to align vertically. And so now I've got these all aligned vertically. And again, that was just a right click and align vertically. And I also may want to distribute them. So if you really want everything to be perfect and you want this to be distributed evenly, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say distribute vertically. And now it puts equal space in between all of those tools. So again, you can do this for your whole workflow if you want to, or you can now just do it just for the tools that you're interested in. And I really love that. So I can get everything spread exactly the way I want and have that workflow perfect. Another cool thing is you used to have to, when you used your containers, so you can see this is actually a container here. It's holding some tools for me. I'm going to zoom in a little here. So you can move containers around, and tool containers are found in your documentation category. So feel free to go to tool container and then documentation. But now, instead of clicking on it and changing your caption over here, you can actually just double click and you can start typing here. So I'm going to say tool inventory container and then just apply. And so now again, you just double click on your header and change it, and it changes for you. So that's a nice little tip and trick right there. Now you can actually disable your container with this blue bar that you see here. So I'm going to zoom in a little. Click on this and it actually disables your container. So you don't have to go to your container configuration anymore and click on disabled, then apply, and then have that disabled. You can actually just click on this and it disables your container. It'll turn white when it says it's disabled, so the white means you can enable that container when you click on it. So I'm going to click on it again, and it's going to enable the container. If you ever want to keep your container enabled, but you want to minimize it, go over here, and it's this little up arrow, and that minimizes it. The down arrow expands it, and then this up arrow minimizes it, but it's still enabled. So this is a good way to just clean up your workflow, make it nice and organized, and still keep everything enabled, but then you can just minimize it here. So something else very cool is that if I want to add something to a new container, I don't have to bring the tool container to the workflow anymore and then drag my tools over to the container. So you don't actually have to do that anymore. I'm going to swipe over the tools I want to put in a container, and then right click and add to new container. So that's it. It's that simple. Now I've got a new container. So the neat thing is you can actually click on all of this and delete everything in that container if you want to. But now you can also just right click on the container header and delete container only. So this takes your container away but leaves all your tools intact. And again, that's swiping here, right click, and you can add to new container. Then you can just click on the container header, make sure your configuration is showing here. Right click, and then let's see, let me make sure I got this right. And of course, it's only when I'm showing it that it's going to do that. And then right click and delete container only. And then all of my tools are intact. Now, some of you may know that you can zoom in and out of your workflow really quickly if you hold down the control button and then use your middle mouse wheel. So if you have a mouse with a middle wheel, hold down Control and pull towards you and it zooms out. Push away from you and it zooms in. Nice and easy. So that's really kind of neat. And again, that's the Control button. But if you ever want to zoom out really fast, you've got this large workflow and you want to zoom out, just double click your middle mouse wheel and it'll zoom out. So again, I just double click that middle mouse wheel and I get a full zoom out on that. So that's really nice. If you ever want to zoom to a specific container, you can just right click, zoom, and then here's your containers listed. So you can see the one that we named, Tool Inventory Container. I'm just going to zoom to it. It's going to zoom to that container. So that's really nice. Again, that's right click, zoom, and then zoom to the containers that you're interested in. So there's container 27. I'm going to go back and zoom to Tool Inventory Container. And then if you want to zoom to specific tools, say I really just want to show only these tools, you can swipe over your tools, right click, and then zoom, and then selected tools. So again, that's just right clicking, zoom, and selected tools. And now you're only to your selected tools. This is really useful when you've got a huge workflow, 100 or so tools. You want to go to those specific tools. This is really nice. Another new feature that's really useful is to add all browses. So I'm going to delete these browses off of here. Sometimes you want to add a browse, and yes, there's a shortcut for add browse after, Control-Shift-B, and I use that a lot. But you can actually add browses everywhere by selecting the tools you want to add and then doing a Control-Shift-B. And now your browses are added. So that again, that was Control-Shift-B, and just make sure that your tools are highlighted first, and then Control-Shift-B, and then you've got the tools that you're looking for. So if you like all these hotkeys, there's actually a workflow here, and there's a link, it's called More Shortcuts. So I'll show you this. This is very cool. This is actually using the Explorer tool, but there is documentation on help.alteryx.com. Just search for hotkeys, and you'll actually see this information. So you can see here, I'm zooming out of my workflow, and this is an Explorer box. So an Explorer box is really cool because you can actually take information and put it into your Explorer box. So I'm going to expand this a little, and you can see even in my Explorer box, using Control and my middle mouse wheel, I can zoom in and out. And so now you can see all your shortcuts. The Explorer box again is in your documentation category. Click on Explorer box, just bring it to the canvas, and it opens up and it defaults to Alteryx. So you can see here, got a little Explorer box here. I'm going to see if I can expand that a little bit. And you can see it's got a URL. So here in the configuration, this is where you put your URL, and you can change it not only to a website, you can put GIFs in here if you want to. I like to put a lot of GIFs in some of my work. It makes it a lot of fun. If you saw the previous webinar on moving Alaska and Hawaii, and also the one on finding where you're at by geocoding, you probably saw me add an Explorer box and put a very fun GIF in there. So if you're interested in hotkeys, search for those in help and you'll get to those. Another great useful tip is in your user settings. So go to Options, and then User Settings, and then Edit User Settings. And you can edit your user settings here. So go to Canvas. And something that's really nice is this Remember Last Zoom Level Per Workflow. There's so many times where I was zoomed into a certain part of a workflow and then had to go somewhere, closed it, and when I come back, it opens to the whole workflow. And I'm like, wait, I wanted to go back to right where I was before. So you can click on Remember Last Zoom Level Per Workflow, and that's really very useful. You can actually open your workflow again. It remembers that last zoom. Something else that's really cool, and let me get to the right place here. I'm going to go back to this. Actually, there's one here that's really nice to see. Connecting and reconnecting. You can see all these lines here. These are actually Bezier curves, and so you can actually change these in your user settings, edit user settings, and if you don't like the Bezier curves, you can go to Canvas, and instead of Auto Route Bezier, go to Auto Route Perpendicular, and then apply. See what happens. That's pretty neat. If you want to change the look of your workflow, you really like those right angles, you can change it to auto route perpendicular. You can also just change it to straight. And I'm going to apply here, and now you get this really cool looking workflow with these straight lines. So, but as I like to say, I grew up with the Bezier, so I'm going to change that back. Because sometimes, you know, I love how that curve happens and it's all auto-routed. And so that's actually the way I like to have those. But just to show you that, there's other options for that in your connection settings. I also want to show you really quickly in your user settings. Again, it's Edit User Settings. There's dataset defaults. So if you're doing a lot of work with spatial and demographics, this is really useful. You can change it to where your reference base map is always the TomTom US most recent vintage. That way, even if you use a browse tool on something spatial, you always have a base map show up. And you would do it here in your dataset defaults, and then change your base map to whichever base map you prefer. There's also demographic analyses. So mine are always using the Experian US most recent vintage. You can use other ones as well, but I'm setting this as my default so that every time I pull in one of the allocate tools, I'm actually using these dataset defaults. So I wanted to show you that as well. So for this next one, I'm going to switch pages here. On the join, there's something really cool. So this may have happened to many of you, and it's definitely happened to me. And when I was first using Alteryx, I panicked every time I did this. I did not know how to get this window back. So it's really, really easy in your configuration window here to accidentally click this X and close that configuration window. And oh no, where did your configuration window go? This usually happens when you're presenting or when right before you have a big meeting or something like that. So to find your configuration window again, you can also do View and Configuration and turn it on. But there's also something else. You can just double click in your white space. And it brings your configuration window back. So again, close that configuration window. It's so easy to click on that X because it looks like it's a workflow X. Double click on your white space and your configuration window is back. So that was wonderful when I learned about that. There's also times where you might accidentally delete that results window down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to purposefully delete it. And oh no, my results window's gone. Again, it's usually while I'm presenting something or got a big meeting. You can actually click on any output arrow of any of your tools and your results window will come back. So again, that's just clicking on any output arrow and it'll bring your results window back. So that's really very useful, especially when you're in a hurry. Also, if you've got a middle mouse wheel, you can go up here to your menus for your toolbars. You can actually just scroll through your menus, so you can actually move these back and forth. And that's just using your mouse wheel. So I'm just moving my mouse wheel back and forth and scrolling through. And then I can get to my menus. This is a lot easier than clicking that little arrow and going back and forth through these. So now I do this all the time. Now I just actually scroll through. If you've got a tool set like the developer tool set and it's got a lot of tools, you can do the same thing. Just hover over that tool set and use your middle mouse wheel. And then you can get to your other tools as well. So now you can also pin your tool sets. So if you want to pin your demographic analysis tool set, which I use all the time, right click on the header of the tool set and then click pin. So now it's pinned over here by my favorites tools, which is really useful. I don't have to scroll around and look for it. It's right there, right by favorites. If you ever want to unpin it, just right click and unpin demographic analysis. And then it's not by my favorites anymore. So that's a cute and cool little trick to use. You can also save all workflows. You can see here, this workflow did have some changes to it, so it's got an asterisk by its name. That means that you need to save it, that there have been changes. The ones that don't have the star by their name do not need to be saved, but this one does. So if I want to save all of them and I'm in a real hurry, I can just do Control-Shift-S, and then they're immediately saved. So again, that's Control-Shift-S, and it saves all your workflows. You can also, if you ever want to close just some of your workflows and leave one open, you can right-click on any and just choose Close All But This. So again, that's just right-clicking on the one you want to keep open, and then close all but this. The really neat thing is you can also open containing folder. So again, this is right-clicking on your workflow name, go to Open Containing Folder, and it shows exactly the path name in Explorer where your folder is, where your workflow is for that. That's really useful. Sometimes I'm creating things and I've got so many workflows open, can't remember exactly where they're all coming from. So that's very useful. So then in this Connecting and Reconnecting workflow, I want to show you this cool thing, and it's been around a little while, but some of you may not know about it. You can right-click, and you can add a tool after. So you can insert after this. I'm going to just insert another tool right after this, like a multi-row formula, one of my favorite tools here. And again, that's just right-clicking, insert after, choose your tool set, and then click on the tool you want to insert. It immediately inserts it in line with connectors. So that's really useful. If you find you don't really want this, you can actually right-click on the tool and then delete and connect around. And that's going to delete the tool and connect around it. So no more just clicking on the tool, deleting, then dragging that connector back over. You can just right-click, delete, and connect around. And that's really very useful. Another neat thing is when you've got multiple outputs, such as here with this join tool, you can actually right-click on any of the connectors if you want to move them and do switch origin to. So I'm going to say switch it to the left. Now it's coming out of the left connector and not out of the join connector. So I'm going to switch my origin on that one to the right, and now it's coming out. So if you've got a bunch of things going on and you want to switch those connectors, that's the way to do it. Just clicking on the connector itself, not on the output arrow. And then let's see, on view possible connections. This one is extremely useful. I've got to show you this. Sometimes you've got a union tool, you got a whole bunch of items you want to pull in and union to it. And you know, in the old days you had to click and drag each one of a time to go into your union tool. There's something cool you can do here. I'm going to just delete all these connections here. So I've got a union tool here, and I want to connect all of these. The really neat thing is you can right-click and say View Possible Connections. And then here's your connections. So I'm going to say I want these inputs to go into my union tool. I want to leave off that first one so I can pick and choose which inputs I want. I'm going to uncheck union in the output, and I'm going to check it in the input. So I'm going to say take the output from all of these tools and join it and connect it into the union tool. And then I'm going to say connect. And now they're connected. So isn't that awesome? It's one of my favorite things. I really love that. That actually works even for your inputs. You can just right-click any tool, view possible connections, and make your changes here. So again, you can do that with your union tools or any tools really that you want to make connections with. So there's also one here that's very important. And I'm going to open this workflow, and it is join versus find and replace. This is something really neat. So I'm going to go ahead and run this one. So you can see here I've got some data, and it's just 3 cities and some information, Greenville, Reading, and Las Vegas, or sometimes it's called Reading. And then these are the same city names, but these are not capitalized. So join is case sensitive. So join is only going to join the ones that with case sensitive naming are the same. So only Las Vegas between these two were actually the same. These two did not have the capitalization on them. So if you ever want to join without being case sensitive, find replace is actually really useful for that. So with find replace, you can actually pull it in just as a join. You can say any or entire field, find within the fields of city name that we had before, and check case insensitive. So this will make sure that it finds it without the case sensitivity. And you can even append the right field to the record. So we're going to say add this debt field to it as well. So you can see in my output, it found all 3 cities, no matter what the case. It added the right information, and it appended debt to it. And it didn't do a regular append where it took one, number and appended the same number down the row. It appended the correct det correlating to the city name. So again, that's find replace, and it's really useful for case insensitive joins. It can also do partial matches. So here I've got the same cities with Las Vegas. This one just has Vegas. So most of the time you couldn't do a join or a match on that. But now you can do a partial match. So with find and replace, do any part of field coming from that city name field, make sure it's case insensitive, and then you can see here, it found it and actually added the data there. So I know we're coming up on the end of the webinar, so I wanted to open it up very quickly for some tips and tricks questions or even questions about Inspire.
All right, thank you, Dana. I am seeing a question here from Marianne. When you change a workflow that is part of a group, do you have to save the individual workflow and resave the group?
That's a very good question. I have not played with that yet, but let's see. I actually will try that because this workflow has been changed a little bit. I will actually insert in connection. I'll just insert a really quick tool here. My favorite tool, the Autofill Tool. So this is part of a group. I believe that if I save it, it's still part of that group. So I am going to close all. And I'll just say yes on these. And then I'm going to open that workflow group again. It looks like it's thinking about it. So let's see, in this connecting and reconnecting, it looks like it kept it actually. So I do believe that as long as I click save, then it still keeps it in the group, and it does keep the changes. So hopefully that answers the question on that. Because I know anytime you do have a workflow and you've made changes, it will ask you to save anyway. It'll prompt you. So I'm going to, let's see, if I can close all. It's actually going to prompt me to say, do I want to save the changes anyway? So it's still a part of that group. So that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that.
All right, and I'm not seeing any other questions. I know that sometimes, personally, when I'm part of a webinar, I will think of a question right after the webinar ends. So if that's the case for anyone on today, feel free to shoot us an email. We would love to interface with you and help out wherever possible. Thank you, Dina, for presenting. Especially the first part made me very excited for Alteryx Inspire. Hope it did the same thing for everyone else on the line. Just an incredible experience for everyone who was there, and I'm sure that next year will be the same as well. Thank you again, everyone. Dina, any final thoughts?
Not that I can think of, but if you are interested in more tips and tricks, it's actually on the Alteryx community. So just go to community.alteryx.com. And you can see it's always in my folder there. Just go to the community, and then you can actually look for tips and tricks. And it'll pop up. Inspire 2018 tips and tricks, and there's even years before. So feel free to go to any of these, and you can see not only the ones I just showed today, but quite a bit more, because I really just did the tip of the iceberg on this. So download the PDF here, and you can do the step-by-step follow-alongs that I just showed you, and there is so much more to be done with tips and tricks. There we go. Hard to say. But again, if you need to see more of those, go to the Alteryx community, and they're right there in the search. And thank you all for joining. It's been a privilege again to meet with you and show you these cool tips and tricks. I hope that you can actually use them even this afternoon as you're using Alteryx. Again, feel free to reach out to us anytime at Technion. We are an Alteryx partner, and we also provide training. So we have Alteryx training from beginner through intermediate to advanced levels, such as advanced analytic apps. And we do come to your office and provide training. So please feel free to reach out to us and let us know if you're interested.
All right. Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.